Millions of Jews and non-Jews were impacted by the sudden death of Rabbi Jonathan Sacks because he had become a point of reference worldwide about what is morality, what are ethics. We learn now that years ago he already suffered from cancer, and he had, I think, twice in his life an encounter with the sickness, and eventually, a few weeks ago, he passed away. And he left a world that is now in mourning because of his passing. But on the other hand, he left an enormous legacy, many books, weekly conversations about the reading of the Torah and other issues as well. I think he was one of the religious leaders that had the greatest influence in the 21st century. And as I say, not only in the Jewish people, I think he was admired by everybody. He was not a controversial individual. He looked rather for harmony. What are principles that move every one of us, not only the Jewish people? In one of his numerous interventions and numerous speeches, he says the following: if in the future somebody would want to describe our society, our present society, how would they do it? How would they define us? In other words, they would think, what did we think was sacred? Or what was the center of our attention? What was the most important thing? If we think about religion, he says, and we know that Europe has become more and more agnostic. Churches are half empty, even less. And maybe because of the scientific advancement, because science nowadays gives us the reason for many things. In other words, it's no longer a mystery. We don't have to base ourselves in extraterrestrial solutions. We can bring solutions to many of the problems. What do we worship today? Well, in the past, they worship the sun. Do we still worship the sun? Well, of course, many people like to sun themselves, but I don't think they worship the sun. What about the moon, another invisible deity? Do we worship the internet, for instance? Do we worship our intelligent phones? Do we do that? You know, some people adore the concept of nation. Communism, socialism, believes that the individual is not so important, the state is more important. They worship the state. What about we? You know what Jonathan Sacks said? He said that we worship ourselves. We worship the individual because he is the center of our attention. I have spoken about this in other opportunities also. The Greeks, for instance, appreciated very much art, especially, human figure. They also had an Olympus with many gods, but they weren't that devoted to their gods. They also worshiped the human being, the human figure. What about us? What is the literature that we read? What are the most read books? Is it the Bible? Well, maybe in older times it was so. Among certain groups, it still is so. Maybe romantic literature. But today, I think we many a time concentrate on something else, that have to do with personal realization. How do you become a better human being? How do you attract other people? How do you influence other people? In other words, everything is really about ourselves and how we can do something for ourselves. In the world of politics, we appreciate the right of everybody to be himself, even his own sex, identity. You can choose whatever you want. This is democracy. The right of an individual to be different, to be yourself, to be what you really are. I remember once hearing the great comic Jackie Mason. He He has a routine about a man that goes to a psychiatrist. Why is he going to a psychiatrist? To find himself. So, in the conversation with his psychiatrist, Jackie says, if I don't know who I am, how will I know when I find myself if I don't know who I am? Maybe it's not me. And he continues like that with a very humorous conversation how to find yourself, because the attention is about me, myself. I am the center of the universe. However, if we go back to the beginnings of mankind, mankind started living in groups, in order to defend yourself of animals, ferocious animals, in order from the cold, in order to be better in hunting, we worked in groups. In other words, we started getting away from concentrating on ourselves, knowing that in unity there is greater force. And what do you learn in unity? In unity, you also learn generosity, you learn altruism. It is not about me and myself, it's not about egotism. In other words, in order for the group to exist, there must be solidarity, there must be empathy, there must be truth. I have to tell the truth to the other members of my group. But today, we think that we can survive by ourselves. Go into a waiting room of a physician and you will find 6 people. Nobody is talking to anybody. Everybody is looking at his own telephone to see what message, what he did. I don't know exactly what they're looking, but we are all just looking in a mirror, looking at ourselves. And when you think only about yourself, there is no growth, there is no progress. The other way around, in order for progress to exist, you have to have interchange with others, with people that don't think exactly the way you think. If I get together only with people that think alike, I'll never know what the alternatives are. If you watch CNN only, you watch Fox News only, you read the New York Times only, or you read the New York Post, it depends. You have to read a variety of things, because if you just follow one direction, you will never grow. In Venezuela, if you look at the state channel of television, you'll think that you're living in a different world. And you go out in the street and you see that it's not the same. I think what we have to do is change. Instead of me, myself, you have to think of us. Dictatorships really become so because the members of the community are irresponsible. They do not assume the role that is really theirs. Despots become stronger because we allow them to become stronger instead of assuming our own responsibility. We think that we can leave the education of children in the hands of others, of their teachers, without taking into consideration that the education that really remains and penetrates is the example that the young man or the young woman get in the home of their parents.